Welcome, I'm Jason. I'm with Alex, the only finisher of GORUCK Selection 019. So, wanted to, first and foremost, congratulate you. I'm shocked we're still friends.
Here we are.
Right after everything.
In my apartment, here we are.
In your apartment in Brooklyn. And it's sort of, to me, that warms my heart in a lot of ways because we demand and expect a lot of people, and it's, I don't know, it's for your own good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all growth. It's needed, the whole process.
Yeah. So, but really I want to talk about your journey. And so for me, as I didn't really know you before Selection 018, which was the year before.
Right, we never met before that.
Right.
No events, no anything, just never crossed
And
paths.
you were also not on the radar.
Right.
Nobody knew you. Which is a great way to show up for selection. I think you said as much.
That was the idea, was stay off social media and just quietly show up as a number, a roster number. That's it. Yeah. That was the goal.
Which is great. It's called gray manning.
Yeah.
Which it's a great way to do it. I did it myself way back when, and it's a great way to go through it. 019 wasn't like that because we met you at 018.
Right.
But so the moment that I remember you the most was at my dad's fire pit at 018 afterwards in Bellbrook, Ohio.
Yep.
Right? In the Bellbrook, Ohio, heartland of America, awesome place. And you know, it was the first morning had come, and it had been sort of a lot of loops around the soybean field.
A lot
of loops.
I remember hearing I don't think I'll ever forget the crack of those soybean plants when you threw the sandbag and it would go roll and you hear crack, crack, crack because they were all dry and, you know, it was out of season. But yeah, a lot of loops.
And so behind the curtain, you know, the cadre can sense when someone is not, they're starting to doubt themselves. We can smell it, you know? And fast forward to the success story of 019, and I never sensed that about you for 1 second, right? So it's sort of what made us stay away from you was because you like to sit and wait, right? You like to sit and wait until someone gets low, and then you prey on them, and then you give them fuel for their doubt.
Right.
So at 018, around and around and around, and there was still what, 3 of you, or 3 or 4 of you?
Yeah, 4. There was 4 of us. Yeah.
And so I just remember all of a sudden Garrett was working you really hard. You would later say, oh, Garrett didn't get to me, I got to myself, which is, it's only half a lie.
It was half and half. Yeah, right. It's partial.
It's only half a lie. You know, so that's cool, you know, round up, round down, but probably round up since it actually worked. So you're like, hey,
multiple cadre, everyone gets a little credit, right?
Yeah, but Garrett did a lot.
Garrett did a good job. Garrett has a very just stone cold face. Yeah, he's good at what he does for sure.
And so we're done. And you say, well, we're done. You said, I'm done.
I'm done.
And I said, all right, you know, because we immediately switch out of cadre role.
Yep.
Right? And your rucksack's sitting there. Then what happened?
Yeah, so immediately Garrett was the one. He took off his sunglasses, of course, right? Help with the human element. And he picked me up. And you offered to carry my rucksack. And I knew immediately that it was the wrong decision to drop. Because literally as soon as he picked me up, and I just had, for the first time in 6 or 7 hours, like 5 seconds to rest and get my mental bearings, I knew it was a mistake. And you were like, oh, I'll get your rucksack, just start headed that way. And I was like, I could actually carry my rucksack. Like I'm fine right now. I feel like an idiot because I'm fine. I could pick that up and keep walking and it's fine. So yeah, I knew immediately that it was the wrong decision.
So you thought that, and then we had that conversation around the fire pit at my dad's house.
Right, we did. Yep. Yeah, a couple hours later, I guess, probably. We were sitting around. Or I don't know if it was right.
It was
after.
More like 10 minutes.
Remember. Was it immediately? I just remember. Yeah. I remember they made me eggs, so I was just sitting there eating eggs happily with no shoes on.
Quit selection, get eggs.
Yeah, right. The cadre will make you eggs if you leave. Right.
Yeah. So I remember there though, and I've seen this before. I've seen this with a lot of people. I mean, this year it was trainer for me.
Right.
right? He had a ton of gas in the tank. He got, all of a sudden something didn't go his way. Life was unfair. And he said, nope, I'm done. I got to go get back to my milk and cookies, right? Because life's perfect if I have my milk and cookies. And so we're good at sort of throwing those curveballs of all of a sudden life gets real. It's like, oh, you thought you won this? Yeah. Great. Take more weight then.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It always, especially if you're sharp mentally outside of it, you kind of think in the moment that like, oh, I can give him a little shit back. Don't ever do that. Jason's thing, when Jason showed up, somehow asked me what my favorite beer was, which was an oatmeal stout. And I'll never forget this. And I thought in my head, I'm going to give him some shit back because I do that. And I was like, opened up and I was like, oh yeah, oatmeal stout. And I had to hear about oatmeal stout beer and how it was waiting up at the top for me, for you, for the next 5 hours, 6 hours. It was just like,
you got your oatmeal stout.
Exactly. You guys went and got it for me and I got it up by the fire. Yeah. So that's definitely a thing is don't think that you're going to win one over when you're mentally exhausted on someone who's totally fresh.
What's your favorite beer? My favorite beer is sandbag tosses.
Right.
That's my favorite beer.
I don't want any.
Can I do some more of? Can I do some more of them for you, Cadre?
Right. Is it time to keep going, Cadre?
So, all right. So, because that moment, I mean, it's impossible for me to separate that moment in my dad's fire pit where I sat and I remember telling you really messed up.
Yeah, right. And I knew it. I knew it already.
You had it in you, and yet you just. Moment of weakness, boom. Things happen fast, you've said.
Right.
Really
fast. All the training was there, all the pieces of the puzzle. The whole night went awesome. I felt like I was winning everything. I felt really strong. I had a plan up to that point of just get to Sunrise Friday. There's always a couple people left, it seems like, when, reading all the AARs and stuff. Like, get to Friday morning, the sun comes up, right? Bob, you feel good. Heat, take off. And the sun came up and I was like, uh-oh, I don't have a plan anymore. I'm out of the part that I planned to. And yeah, things changed drastically from there.
By the way, Bob is big orange ball. It's awesome.
Right,
it's a huge motivator, the sun.
Yes.
So, all right. Wow. This is I just saw this. The Budweisers in New York say New York. If you're watching on YouTube, big victory, you get to see it. Maybe you already knew that. They say New York. Everywhere else.
They do that. I didn't notice that.
Everywhere else in America, they say America. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm not going to skip to the end yet. I want to go back in time, because there's these moments where the three most important moments, at least waypoints, if you will, were you quit 018.
Yep.
You successfully complete 019.
There's a lot of shit in the middle.
There's a lot of shit in the middle, and I want to get to that, the training, the preparation, the physical, the mental, the all of that. But I want to go back to the genesis. Okay. What was the genesis of your journey to even want to do GORUCK Selection?
Selection out of everything. So in the endurance community in general, there's all sorts of things. There's fun mud runs and color runs and ultra marathons. There's adventure races. There's multi-day stage races. There's events where you carry weight, not necessarily GORUCK, but other similar events. There's a huge variety, right? Mm-hmm. There's all this shit that you can do. Challenge yourself in every which way. And some are very easy, they're more introductory, and some are very hard. A whole plethora. Going back a few years, if you read articles, or like there was an original one, Outside Magazine used to keep a list of like the top 10 hardest endurance events in the world. And there were, every time they did it, or at least any of the ones that I saw, there were two. There was the Peak Death Race and there's GORUCK Selection. Time went by, I tried all different formats of events, different things. I finished the Death Race up in Vermont. And so it was like, well, obviously that giant thing hanging over me was, well, Selection's the other one. Everyone always says that's the gnarly one. And to me...
The gnarly one.
The gnarly one.
So you're just building us marketing campaigns as you speak. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. That's a tag it. But funny enough, though, as much as I say gnarly or crazy, whatever people say about selection, to me, a lot of the other events, all that they have is they can say they're the craziest, right? They do ridiculous things. They put you in absurd situations. They purposely make it not fair. They lie to you, whatever it might be. It's like the craziest. Like, how crazy can we get? What I liked about selection, or what the idea of it that attracted me from the beginning, was there was no gimmick. It was nothing like, we're going to, this crazy thing might happen. We're going to do this, it was just, there's a standard. We're going to tell you exactly what it is, essentially, from the beginning. These are the things you have to meet. You have the same gear list as everybody else. We'll tell just like you hear about people in certain military training. It's like, we're going to tell you what to wear, when to piss, when to eat, like when to go to sleep, which in selection is never. But it's just like, here, this you're all the same. There's no advantage of, oh, well, you bought the most expensive this, you bought some weird food supplement that nobody else thought to bring, you found a good time to sleep when nobody was paying attention, like you might get in an adventure race. It was, we're going to tell you what to do. You all have to do the same exact thing, and it's a standard. So I like the idea of just, whereas everything else is like, let's make it as wild and crazy as we can be. Selection it's very boring in the sense of just, this is exactly what you're going to do. This is what everyone's going to do, and you either pass or fail. That's it. There's no mystery. There's no unfairness. It's a very cold, calculated standard.
So is it a difference in that, basically everybody quits selection. It's right. There's no, you don't show up somewhere outside of the administrative portion. Right. The push-ups, the sit-ups, the run, and the ruck. That to me is not really selection. You can do that by yourself.
Right. Things can go horribly wrong there, but right.
they did for you.
Right. They can go horribly wrong there, but it's not. It's a dual-edged sword, right? Because everyone wants to say, oh, you're awesome just if you sign up. And that's a 50-50. It is awesome to me if you sign up and you train your ass off and you crush yourself and you make it your life for those months, right? Mm-hmm. And you work towards it. Mm-hmm. And then there's no shame in showing up and something went horribly wrong and you fail. And that, I'll give you all the credit in the world. You signed up, you trained for it.
Almost all the credit.
Oh, right. Almost all the credit. If you sign up just so that you can post everywhere like, I signed up, I'm a badass, look how crazy I am, and then you don't prepare, you don't take it seriously, you don't whatever, and then you fail out of the PT test, I could care less. That, right? Anybody could pay a few $100s and sign up and then not do anything for it, right? Just to get the credit for signing up. So that's a dual-edged sword every time when someone says, oh, well, you signed up. That's awesome in itself. Well, it's awesome if you trained. If you didn't train, there's no credit for signing up.
So ultimately, though, at selection, everybody quits, basically.
Right. So anyway, out of the
there's no gimmicks. No. It's straightforward. It's brute force.
Yep. I quit.
It's a mental. Is it mental or is it physical or both? How would you describe it?
If you didn't train right, it's physical. Physical will purely get you. You just physically, it might be mentally overwhelming, but ultimately you actually physically can't complete the tasks in any sort of timely fashion because you're not physically ready.
It's bad.
Right. It's physically bad. Can't do it because you haven't trained, you haven't done the right stuff. You don't stand a chance. No matter how much you will it, right? You can't just flop around like a dead fish for 48 hours.
Right. So what's the percentage chance that you go for a couple runs a week, you lift some weights, you go to, LA Fitness or whatever. Yeah. You just show up and gut it out. Right. You got the mental fortitude of Patton. How are you going to do?
Everyone thinks that, but you don't stand a chance. I doubt you make it out of the welcome party without, strong, serious physical training.
So let's talk about your training.
Yep.
So rucking is the foundation of Special Forces training.
Right.
It's no coincidence that it's the foundation of GORUCK Selection and the sort of GORUCK universe.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your training from rucking to cardio to strength to whatever else you did. How did you prepare? And let's go back to the beginning.
Yep.
Pre Ohio, class 018, and then let's
Right.
talk about the genesis or the evolution to get to 019.
Yeah. So probably when I hit like 23, I'd been, college, you're out of shape, you stop after no more high school sports, no more Boy Scouts in the woods.
What'd you play in college?
I didn't play any sports in college. That's why college was.
Oh, I see.
I
see.
didn't.
Got it.
That was the problem, right? It was
Not even intramural frisbee or something?
nothing. It was, and even because of class and the way work and everything that was going on in college, I couldn't even surf as much as I did. So the activity level plummeted, and partying went up. So. Right. So I hit like 23 and I said, that's it. I've never been this way in my life. Like I am the past few years. Totally can't do this anymore. Time to get back in. And I just started very basic body weight stuff and just running, even though I've never been a runner. I was a competitive swimmer and I played certain sports and I surfed and stuff, but I was never a runner. So for me, it was just like, well, I'll start with running, and I just kind of figured it out. I worked on form, really. That's the only way I didn't seriously hurt myself. Mm-hmm. But anyway, got into obstacle course racing because I missed being out in the woods in nature. So that's what I liked about that best, was be able to go to a
Probably
mountain.
why you became an Eagle Scout.
Right. Well, when I was younger, I spent a ton of time in the woods. We had a super active troop. We would go camping once a month. We go backpacking, rock climbing, shooting, what have you.
You were active.
Extremely
a lot of
active.
movement.
Right. A lot of outside. So when I got back into fitness and I said I want a challenge that's outdoors, outside, that was OCR. It was go to a mountain, run a race, right? Get messy, do a thing. So that's what I like. So originally, training was a lot of body weight stuff and a lot of running, just because that's what I was doing. It wasn't then till a buddy got me into, I actually just talked about this on another podcast. My buddy Eric from our OCR
Doing lots
group.
of podcasts.
Yeah, yeah.
This guy.
Right.
This guy.
All the interviews. Right? Trying to keep them all interesting. Yeah. My buddy Eric, who's in a group of us who all like we'll go camping and stuff before races and events and sort of turn it into trips and fun. But anyway, he's like, yeah, I found this thing, GORUCK. A lot of people that I've been talking to have been doing it. He said I did it was a challenge at that point, tough. It was a lot of fun. You got to do it, whatever. And I did it, and that's a whole nother story. But I started, really getting into rucking then, like carrying heavy weight. And when I started, and we talked about this on Ohio some, because I came from Boy Scouts and the world of backpacking and mountaineering and stuff, I was very used to, an internal frame pack with a giant hip belt, and you carry all the weight on your hips instead of your shoulders, the opposite of, what we see typically with rucking. And I kind of started backwards and then had to work my way back and read a lot of reviews and figure out like the right way to do it and strengthen your shoulders and stuff. But anyway,
ultimately my take, I'll just interject real quickly, is you're better off if you strengthen both.
Right.
If you strengthen your shoulders and your back and you strengthen your hips and your glutes and all that stuff, and you can move and you can carry both, then you're winning. Because in the military you can't do a hip carry because you have your magazines around your waist. You just can't do it.
It's just not possible.
So you got to get tougher. You got to get stronger. And that's sort of the sort of friction between how you should carry weight.
It made a lot of sense, and I still make this argument now, obviously being on the other side of it with people to this day of like how you should carry the weight and stuff. But anyway, I got into rucking, and then that's when it started to be more about not how can I absolutely run the fastest up this mountain and do a couple quick body weight things, but going for the long, slow grind. How much weight can I carry? How far? How long can I go? Real like.
So what was the difference in preparation between class 018 and class 019?
So between the two GORUCK classes, selection classes, almost nothing. I really had it dialed in the first one. The only thing that I made sure to do on the second was I knew it would be in Jacksonville, so I did as much sand as possible. But as far as the actual training, I think that's what killed me so much. I had it dialed in at 018.
Okay, so I described it, I think, as somewhere between ashamed and angry.
Right. I think that's what you said. Ashamed in something. Yeah. It was just
at the end of 018 when you quit.
Yep. It was just like
You just seemed sort of sitting there. I remember you. I can see it right now in front of me.
Yep.
You're sitting in that chair around my dad's fire, and you were just sort of, you know, if you just threw up or something,
Yeah.
and then someone tells you to puke and rally,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, I don't, you know, okay, I guess I will, but you still got that sort of tinge of vomit in the back of your throat. That's what you looked like.
Jala said that after this year. She's like, oh, I could see it in your eyes right away that it was like, I'm going back. I mean, I knew immediately because people asked that, like, oh, well, when did you know that you were going to just sign up for the next one and go right into it again and try and do it? I said, like, immediately. We practically hadn't made it back to the house where I said, this is totally doable. I had this. I'm an idiot for just throwing away all that training, and I need to get right back.
Did you throw it away?
No. In the long run, of course.
So were you ready what happened mentally? Were you ready? Because my take is just based on outcomes.
Right.
That's my only real measure, is that you just weren't ready.
Yeah, no.
So what's the difference mentally?
I think the best thing was, like they say, sometimes it's good to fail as much as, you know, you hate failure. Obviously, you don't want to be the guy that fails at stuff. They're hard to swallow every time. But it always does teach you some sort of lesson. And it certainly did in this case, because I hated it. I hated that feeling of I quit something, number one. And two, I really put everything I had into it, and then I quit. I failed. That didn't feel good at all.
And quitting and failing are different.
Yeah, right. Well, right, because you can say, well, you turned it around, you tried again, you won, so it wasn't a failure. It was a lesson, which it was. But yeah, I just immediately was, okay, I got to do this again.
So how many things have you quit in your life?
Things that I actually really said, hey, I'm going to do this no matter what. I want this. That was the only thing. I can honestly say, there's stuff in the past where, oh, well, I'm going to take an extra class on something, but it's never like a sit down and say, hey, I'm going to put everything I got into this. Because a lot of time, especially nowadays, whether it's social media or whatever, a lot of people will, there's an attitude of like, well, you tried. You went out there and did it, right? People sign up for things all the time and put half-ass training or a third of the training they need in. They barely just, I'll run a couple, like you said before, I'll run a couple times. I'll go lift weights once a week or something. And then they fail at it, and just there's this massive outpouring of support on social media. Like, oh, you tried. Most people wouldn't even get out there or even give it a go, right? Good for you. And they get used to failure, where it's like, well, everybody, you get all the praise anyway just for doing it, because most people wouldn't sign up for that. I hate the idea of that. So I never want that to be me. So the last thing I wanted, that was in my head too. The last thing I wanted was for it to be like, oh, well, you made it so far. Nobody makes it that far. Look at the percentages. Like, good for you. You got out there and gave it all you had. And I was like, no way is that where it's going to end, because I committed to doing it. So I have to finish it now. Or if I'm going to go out, it's going to be because they're dragging me out of there, not because I just said, not doing as well as I would like.
So that's how it was in my training, back in 03, but really 04 to 06, right? I didn't know if I could meet the standard in the Special Forces qualification course. I had no idea if I could measure up, because you can't know a standard if you don't define the standard, right? It's not a PT test where this is how many push-ups, sit-ups, run, rock, or whatever, right? And so it like all I wanted to do was to make sure that I wouldn't quit. Because if quit, it's like a very
permanent feeling. Because I've said this before with people too, with things, and it's certainly not an original thing that I came up with, but you've heard many people say it, quitting is forever, right? So even though I came back and now here's this all wonderful, victorious story of how I came back and trained harder and won, the fact is I still quit 018. And that will never go away.
So let me walk, like, I want to drill down into that. I want to drill down into the exact moment
Yep.
You've never quit anything in your life. And I saw you in class 019. I looked into your eyes a lot.
Yep.
You know, it was 24, 36, 40, 47 and a half hours, 48 hours later.
Yep.
There was zero quit in your eyes. And at this point I can smell it 10 miles away like a shark smells blood, right? That's how our cadre work. What happened then? In Bellbrook, Ohio.
In 018.
Yeah.
So I remember very well because I still had quite a bit of mental clarity at that point. So like I said, the whole night, the first night, you know, the welcome party, winning tons of stuff, good. At that point, Mark,
who eventually passed.
Mark, who won.
Yeah, the only
who fucking won.
Yeah, right. He won.
Yeah. So realize anything I say, Mark fucking won. But anyway, he was, as we all know, talking a lot, right? And we laugh about this now. He talked a lot. So he was busy doing stuff on the side, getting extra attention because he talked so much. So the rest of us that were over during the main part of the welcome party, not getting extra smoked, I was winning a lot. Win. I spent a lot of time, you know, you get those 4-5 minutes of extra time rest in between evolutions because you're winning. So it felt really good. So I said, okay, welcome party went well. There's 6 of us. Good. Next evolution went really well. Good. Now there's 5 of us. Down. And like I said, originally it was make it to the next morning. So we get to the next morning. There's 4 of us. I said, the sun's going to come up. This is going to be great because I feel great. And the sun came up. And by that time, Mark had quieted down. So we were all doing the same stuff. And the sun came up and he soaked in that energy like a solar panel and just took off. He just started performing in a way that just dominated the other 3 of us.
So to frame this up for anyone listening or watching, Mark at class 018, he physically dominated selection to a level I've never seen.
Yep, he just dominated when that sun came up.
And ultimately, you know, this isn't. Maybe we'll bring him on at some point and talk about, you know, his journey because there was a low later.
Yeah,
but you know, he learned humility, as we all kind of do when you here's the dirty little secret is that the more awesome things you do, the more accomplishments, if you want to call them that you pass, the more humble you get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, yes, Mark was winning a lot at that. I mean, he woke up that morning. I remember he was so far ahead of everyone all the time.
Yep.
And so we weren't focused on him at that time the same way that in 019 we weren't focused on you.
Right.
Because you just look steely-eyed and in it to win it. So we like to, it's a waiting game. We like to wait until you start to see your spirit animal, and then we like to talk to you about your spirit animal.
Get in there. So anyway, he was winning.
Yeah.
And I did the opposite. I was in a trough as he peaked, right? So
we smelled it.
So all of a sudden, you know, I'm having a great night. Everything's going swimmingly. And then now I'm in a trough and he's just crushing the 3 of us, just killing it. I mean, I couldn't even see him. He was up there in the field.
Blue Falcon, right? Buddy's only half the word.
Killing it. Yeah. So, you know, 1 evolution and he gets 15 minutes of rest, right? And the cadre are saying this to me. Mocha and Garrett are like, he's up there just chilling and you are sucking wind back
here.
You're
losing.
You are losing in a big way, like losing. So every evolution over, you know, all the way from sunrise to like noon, he's up here, I'm down here. And every evolution is just, I immediately finish and immediately you're starting the next thing. So in my head, you know, I'm thinking of it in race terms because selection is so different and I had never done it before. So I'm thinking of it like any other race or thing where it's just like, oh man, I was up here and now I'm down here and I keep losing. And one of the things that you get in your own head with is just there's, you know, you're like looking at the sun. I'm like, there's 27 hours in this event left. And I haven't had a break.
We like to remind you of that.
Yeah, well, it honestly didn't even take that. Obviously, Garrett and Mocha both started focusing on that. You started to focus on that, but it didn't even take you guys saying anything.
Oatmeal stout.
Because it was just, I have 27 hours of this and I haven't got a break in 6 or 7 hours. I can't keep this up physically for another 24 hours, right? There's no way. So that's what happened. That's the seed that gets planted, is I cannot keep losing like this. I can't stay behind for all this time, and I'm getting further and further behind, and he's winning more and more. I'm never going to catch him. So already I'm treating it like a race.
You're overthinking everything.
Completely overthinking it, where I'm like, there's no way. I'm never going to catch him.
You're self-selecting.
Right.
You're saying, I'm not okay. I'm not ready for this.
Right. And that's where my comment came from about Garrett, was because all of that in my head happened before Garrett even started talking. So already in my head, it was, I'm all the way back here. He's all the way up there. There's 27 more hours. This is getting just terrible. And at first, it's like a stubbornness. It was like, there's no way I'm stopping on this evolution because I've already been doing this for too long. I need to at least finish this evolution. And then it's, as much as I love Garrett, in the moment, it's like, Garrett's from Massachusetts and he's an asshole, so there's no way I'm going to quit to Garrett, right? Like, as soon as Garrett gets out of here, maybe, right? But I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to say that to him. So then, I mean, you're only delaying the inevitable because you're already in, you're
playing let's make a deal somehow.
Right. So you're in your head and that evolution finishes. So then we went to the sandbag workout and I'm just awful on the sandbag workout, doing whatever I was doing. And then the new cadre came in, so now there's double cadre in the middle of the switch. Totally fresh. Morning, it's 11.
They care even less about your feelings than the guys that have been with you watching.
They haven't even been watching anything, right? Yeah. And then they red patched me. JC came in and red patched me.
Hey, but good news is you got all 3 of those patches on your board over there. That's good.
As Stoney said, that's the coolest thing to take away is look at all the colored patches you got. Yeah. And
hold on a second. Keep talking. I'll go get them.
So it was just don't rip the board off the wall. So it was all of those things. It was just me being like, I'm sucking now, and all the cadre being like, your body is failing you, and then fresh cadre coming in, and then getting a red patch, and it just all is just like, yep, this is not happening. So these are the 32 ones, right?
So this is your...
Yeah, so this is the original, which I had for a long time.
The original, you did have it for a long time because you weren't losing.
I was doing well.
To be a winner, right. So it's a tan 3-2 patch. And
Look
then
how clean that is, right?
Yeah, and then there's a yellow 3-2 patch. You barely had it.
So right before you go on to the red, so the yellow one, it was I didn't get it till the sun came up, and then it was just immediately
congratulations slash
and then
a new cadre showed up. He didn't care about your feelings slash because you know why? So here's the little, because we want people, we want to meet the kind of person that passes GORUCK Selection, whether they show up before, which has happened several times now, and they ultimately pass. Right. I mean, you learned a lot in your year-long journey to come back for redemption, right?
Sure.
We want people to pass. And so, part of that though is you got to come and earn it. So, you get your couple patches and then you get a new cadre and he doesn't care about your feelings.
Yep.
So then all of a sudden, there's no sympathy.
Yeah.
There's no sort of...
It's just like, you're not meeting the standards. That's exactly, I think, what JC said is, you're not me, and I got a nice red patch for you.
Yeah, nice red patch. So lucky you got an extra $1 out of your experience, and there is your 3-2 patch, and you got it on your wall next to all your other ones. The cooler one is the finishers one.
Yeah, right? That one's much cooler.
It doesn't matter, but ultimately, so here you hold it.
Yeah.
There you go. So the finishers patch, it doesn't really matter if you don't quit. You have I don't know. I guess because if you quit, you have a 0% chance of finishing selection. So 0 times infinity. Those two can battle. Yeah. Those two can battle though, but you have an infinitely higher percentage chance of finishing if you don't quit. And so you didn't quit. You got it.
And then you get the full series.
Right? And then you got the full series. That's awesome. You had to show up twice. You did it.
Yeah, there's It's I was only going to do it in 2. I said, "There's no way I'm doing this whole thing again for another summer."
Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
Can you imagine?
I stood there.
You got to come back here and look at yourself in the mirror, and you don't.
I had that moment when I failed the push-ups the first time.
Oh, so tell the story.
Yeah.
All so right. we're in Florida this time again.
Well, before we even get to that,
yeah.
So. Just like the first time, the second time was the same. First of all, I love push-ups. I do every variation of push-ups all the time. If I'm lifting in the gym, I do push-ups. If I'm running, I do push-ups. Wide,
18 inches of separation,
right,
19 inches, 20,
everything. Wide, up, down,
48 inches.
One arm,
yeah,
right. All the variations. Like push-ups are it.
Push-ups.
Pecs are clutch.
Stud.
So anyway,
got it.
Like all through training, push-ups are like, if you can at any moment drop down and do at least 80 without stopping or resting, like forget about it. That was how I thought of it, is 80 was the number. And generally, if I hadn't just lifted chest or something the morning of, you could do 100 within the 2 minutes. Like 100 push-ups should not be a problem. It's just, that's what you need to be able to crank out. You pause for a second up, but don't touch the ground. 2 minutes, the standard, do 100. So 100 push-ups, no problem. So then we get to Jacksonville, and it's, my nerves are just through the roof. If anybody, the one thing that I've said, both selection experiences, there is no way to describe the air at selection when you show up, right? And the cadre just, there's no craziness from the beginning. It's just a very stoic, careless,
stoic,
calculated face.
I know you, and you know me, and you should have known that I wanted you to pass.
Right.
But that enters zero.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if everybody's like, oh, this guy's such a great person.
Go back and look at the footage of how horrific it was.
Right. It doesn't matter. There's no, that's when we talked about why you want to do selection. That's why. It's because it doesn't matter who you are, who knows you, how good of friends you are. It's the standard is the standard. Everybody's stoic. Like, that's it. So anyway, that air that you can cut with a knife, that would be fun to go there next year when I'm not shitting my pants, right?
Yeah.
It'd be super cool just to have a beer and just hang out. But, you're there with that just tenseness, and we're on the beach, which I feel comfortable on the beach, but it was super hot out, super sunny, and you're nervous.
Way hotter than it was supposed to be.
Yeah. The PT test, even the PT test happens fast, right? As standardized as it is, and they do it exactly the right way with everybody lined up and cadre to count.
After the layout.
Right.
Which the goal is with the layout, the packing layout.
Right. Which this year that didn't.
We just want to ramp the stress up.
Right.
You did a great job. I was watching you.
Yeah.
You were ready.
Right.
You can tell.
Yeah, this year it was like, it threw me a little bit last year, and you're like, oh, because you're afraid you're going to start getting massive performance failures. Like they're going to drop you for not packing, so you freak out. But this year, I could care less. So that didn't affect me at all. I was like, all right, we're going to move over. No problem. We set up for the PT test. It's super hot. I'm in that mode of, I'm going to drop down and just crank out all of them, and then take a short rest, and then I'll slowly finish at the end, and that'll be fine. So I'm so focused on what I'm doing incorrectly that Ragnar, he was not counting reps.
Cadre Ragnar.
Cadre Ragnar. That's the deal. If they're not counting, they're not counting. So they don't count. So chill. So he didn't count. So it took me getting all the way for 9 push-ups where I didn't lock up all the way, for him to say, hey, stop, go to your knees, rest. And of course, you're eating up the clock during this whole time.
Yeah.
And he said, you're not locking out at the top. And I was so in the whatever of, I got to just get these done. I go back down. You
just wanted your milk and cookies. Got it.
Yeah. I got to get these done. And I start going down, and he's counting like half of them because I'm not locking up at the top. And somehow in my own head, you're so focused on, who knows what at that point. But I interpreted that as, I better go down further. So, when you're doing like those unnecessarily deep push-ups that just smoke your pecs, where you're landing on I'm smashing into the ground at this point.
Yeah.
Instead of still not locking up at the top, like he is instructing me I have to do, and that's all I had to do. So now I get to.
He wasn't talking about the bottom. He was, He
was talking about the top, and he told me that very clearly and very stoically, and I just totally. So I get
It's like the telephone game, except you play it only in your own mind.
with yourself,
right?
Yeah. So I get to like 35 and I said, I am smoked. I'm screwed. I'm resting at that point. Like I'm screwed and I barely have any time left. And there was no way. I got to 45 and I was done because I ran out of time. And was smoked because of the
So then what happens? You go to the back of the line?
So then you go to the back of the line and you're just
thinking
sitting there.
about the last year.
The whole last year, just all the sacrifice, all the time, the 5 a.m. wake-ups, the 9 p.m. bedtimes, just over and over and over. And I just staring at the ocean, I said, there is no way that I'm leaving here and I'm going to go back and look at everybody in the PX who now knows who I am and is expecting a lot. And my girlfriend's back there, and I was like, there is no way.
She's got your milk and cookies ready.
There's no way. I said that I'm going back there 2 days early, right?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So then, we did the sit-ups. That was fine. And then I did the push-ups, and it Garrett just very, stoically like, oh, I guess you wanted to do more PT, and I walked away. That was it. But yeah, so that was it. I almost blew it in the first part of the admin phase.
Right. So difference in mental capacity or mental. I just spilled a little beer too, so I'm not going to fault you for what you just did. I'm going to bring it up, but I'm going to blame myself too.
I'm wearing simple shorts, so it just beads right off. It'll dry fast.
All right. So difference in mental capacity, evolution, growth. Take your pick. All these big words that we as humans want to go after between the two classes. Not sort of, but where were you? Like you quit and then you passed.
So I think at the first one,
my take was it was a huge difference.
Right. At the first one, I had done all the work beforehand, researching and physically, but ultimately it was like, only like one guy usually passes. That means I have to be the strongest or mentally and physically the strongest one there essentially. Okay. And am I that guy? I don't know. I have no idea how I'm going to perform because it's something totally different than all the other events. So I don't know. Whereas training for the second one, it was, I am going to crush everybody else's spirit. And I really thought that. That's how I thought of it. So I am going, first of all, it wasn't just I want to finish. It was there's only been one finisher for a very long time or none. Mm-hmm. And Jason wants more finishers, right? Because it looks good if more people train hard and show up and finish. Even though,
frankly, it doesn't necessarily look better, but
whatever. Regardless, it'd be cool if there was
1, 2, 3.
Right.
We want girls to pass. We want young, old, black, white, male, female, military. Right. So we want to meet the kind of person that can pass.
You want to see that. It looks good if people can pass. But even though you're only you have to earn it. But anyway, you have to
earn it no matter what.
You're gonna earn it no matter what. But it would be cool to see multiple people pass. But in my head, I said, I'm not going to have anybody be like, look, multiple people passed. That was an easy one or anything like that. I said,
you wanted to crush them.
That's it. I went into it with mindset of I've trained harder than everybody else. I'm more prepared than everyone else. I want to be the only finisher, period. That's it. I don't just want to finish. I want to be the only guy to finish this class number.
So I will argue right now that if someone else had, come in second place, that you would be sitting here saying they earned it.
Oh, absolutely. If first of all, like Jonathan Hurtado, who was second with me, 28, is a monster. And he's a strong dude. So it would have been...
He quit on himself mentally like you did in
the other year, right. So don't get me wrong at all. If he finished, he would have earned it, and he can finish, and he's a monster. Yeah. So like if it had been the two of us, I would have gave him the biggest hug at the end. We would have drank beers. It would have been awesome. But as far as a mental mindset, I didn't know you never know who's going to actually show up versus not, right? Because everyone says they're showing up.
Okay, so I'm going to go back real quick because Emily brought this up and we were on the subway over, and I think it's a really important question. So I used to train with a group as a lot of my life, right? So the Army would force me into certain kinds of PT.
Right.
And that was good, right? It was a structure, but I would do a lot more on my own, and I would relish doing it on my own. Right. Because I just felt it was an edge.
Right.
And I I can't speak to someone else's body or training, but mentally it was an edge for me. So how did you approach the sort of, hey, I mean, I know you showed up for Brag Heavy.
Right.
Yeah,
of course.
Like the together versus the individual training. I mean, how do you tackle that?
So as far as events, first of all, like selection was something to prove like, hey, I can do it. But the team events are way cooler. It's way cooler to show up and take a bunch of people who don't know each other. Either I don't know them, they don't know each other, whatever it might be, and take people who are unsure of maybe of what they're doing. They're unsure of themselves. They don't know what to expect. They don't know each other, and watch them forge into a team. And it's especially cool to be part of that team and slog the extra weight when you have to, give them a crutch to lean on and tell them, hey, you can do this, and watch them push through and crush it, right? So the team events are awesome and I love them. And they're their whole other thing. And I do, first of all, I wanted to do Brag. I need to add a couple patches to the board. So I did the ABSO HCL. So I did do a couple of things just because you need to stay in that element of, actual events and how that works, right? A cadre can always push yourself harder than you can push yourself for certain types of training.
Uncertainty.
Right. Certain things, yeah. But as far as actual training, I always look, it's funny because it's made me question my own training in the past. I look at a lot of people and all they do is train with each other. They're lifting with each other. They're rucking together. They're doing sandbag workouts together.
And then your buddy quits the event and you don't know what to do.
Right. I don't do any of that. I look at, if I'm honestly going to any sort of physical training thing, practice, not an event, physical training with other people, I look at that as just like a fun social activity of, hey, yay, we're doing this physical thing together, but that's not serious training. Serious training for me is by myself always. And I don't, everybody expects, because it's me, that like, what music do you listen to? What's in your playlist? Because I have all these obscure
Slayer
bands and stuff. Nothing.
Black metal.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't listen to music when I train, because when you're in a really shitty moment on a race or an event or whatever, there's no headphones. You have to be in your own head. So when I'm training and I'm lifting, I don't want it to be like, oh, I put up an extra 2 reps because Slayer made me feel super powerful and awesome. I want it to be because I just dug down and said, yep, I need to do these and do them. So I don't listen to music. I don't listen to other people. I want to train by myself. That's just how it works for me.
All right, I got 2 more questions. The first is, how would your mom describe who you are? So my son works at whatever, he does whatever, and yet they're like, what motivates you?
So, how my mom would describe me?
Yeah.
I mean,
she probably knows you pretty well.
I can say that, well, I'll say one thing, no matter what it is that I'm doing, whatever, one of these dumb events or something, I feel terrible for every person that she has to see for the next like 2 weeks or a month, because probably everybody that she works with, and the grocery store person and the bank teller, right? Like everybody at this point has heard of Selection and probably seen pictures and like have her best description of like, look at this thing. My parents have been super supportive. So I'm sure that everybody who she's ever met has now heard of Selection, got shown some links, had to watch some of the live feeds, right? Like, no, but look at it, really look at it, look at how it is, or whatever. So, I think she hates it on one level, because it's just like, oh, I have to, she said there was some live video that she couldn't watch. She had to just turn it off,
bad.
Go to bed. Right. She's like, I just can't sit and watch them. She said, like, I was at one point, like, standing up, screaming at the TV at you.
Probably
like,
me.
Don't hurt his shoulder
don't
forever. Yeah. Like the mom thing.
Look, shoulder's fine.
Yeah,
Look,
I know. I'm
shoulders
still
are
moving.
fine.
I can pick up my hands and everything. But so super supportive. I'm sure it's well. All mothers who are.
But so
supportive.
you work in IT. You're in New York.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a senior network engineer at a company that we essentially, if you're not quite a large enough company, you're only a few hundred people and you can't pay an internal IT staff, we provide that staff externally. That's what we do. It's an MSP, a managed service provider.
Okay, so leveraging that because that's not just a breeding ground for the kind of person that passes GORUCK Selection. It's not just a natural thing.
Right. I guess not. Yeah,
There's no sort of call to go do the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life that almost nobody's going to pass in our country right now, etc. Right? But why does or should GORUCK Selection exist? And I say that I'm going to frame it really, really briefly, which is that, I could sit here and say, oh, if you really want this, go join the military. If you, these sort of, my personal story is that without 9/11, I never would have joined the military. And so it was a sort of time and place and where I was in my life. I was 22 and, my uncle didn't serve, who was hugely influential in my life. My dad didn't serve, my stepdad didn't serve, all those types of things. And so I take the viewpoint that a lot of things are time and place in life.
Right, and then there's a catalyst of some sort.
There's a catalyst, and it's always, nobody's a self-made man.
Right.
Nobody.
Everything around you affects you.
It all does. And so here we are, and there's this thing, though, that you pay money to push yourself to the extreme where, at the end of 2 days, you're going to spend another 7 days recovering like you're in the geriatrics ward. Right? Which is true. And I just heard Anna Banana laugh.
Yeah.
We get her up here next, start talking about some questions from the GRTs out there and they got them.
Yeah.
But it's more sort of, why should this event exist?
I think events like this are super important.
Is there another event like this?
Not well, like I said before, we went into the whole thing. I don't want to redig that. Not quite like this, but the whole idea of get out way outside of your comfort zone and just push yourself as hard as you can, right?
Way
out there, right? So the idea of events like that, or the idea of GORUCK Selection and why should it exist is, there's very few things where it's really put yourself out there and give it absolutely everything you have if you even want a shot to be able to accomplish it. Most things, even things that to most people seem very hard or seem very challenging or, seem like something that would give a very hard time, when it really comes down to it and push comes to shove,
Johnny gets a trophy.
They'll bend it and it's like, well, you tried really hard.
Johnny gets a trophy.
You gave me more money, whatever it might be. It comes down to just, you made it through so much and you tried so hard and you put in all this effort and all this time and it looks good for us if somebody finishes or whatever it might be. So it's like, here you go. And it's important with events like this, especially like Selection, where it is an absolute, I was just listening to Mikey B's podcast on All Day Ruck Off a little while ago on the car ride coming up here. It was just, we don't care what else is going on. We have zero sympathy for you.
Yeah, so Mikey B was the medic cadre.
The cadre that and helped me recover over the next 2 weeks with chats. But
twice a day,
we'd get on Facebook video.
Our Special Forces medic cadre, who was at the event, was helping you recover from the event.
And it was like, well, you should be doing this instead of this. You should be, make sure you take more of this. Go get this. Yeah, go see the doctor for this, whatever it might be. But like he said, we don't care. This life isn't fair. The standard is the standard, and if you want it, you have to earn it. So that, to me, is extremely appealing for people that, if you want to feel like you earned it, you need, there's very few things that do that, and Selection is one of those. That's why it's so important to me.
Did you have any doubt in your mind? So, two things. First off, we all wanted you to pass, but we wanted you to meet the standard. Right?
You have to. There's no, like I said, it's cold and calculating. It doesn't matter.
Did you have any doubt in your mind that, did we ever bend the rules for you?
No, there was nothing. It didn't matter how slow you were. Like, I was so shocked digging the hole on the second night. that I had, I would dig, and you'd sort of like, you'd try and be like, well, maybe I'll just go to the other side of the hole, and then at least will give me a few seconds of not digging to walk around. And so Cadre Mickey got sick of that and was just like, okay, that's it. And he duct taped my hands to the shovel, right? So now I'm digging the hole, duct taped to the shovel,
bless Mickey.
which is amazing looking at it back. But
you can look at it this next year in Velbro.
It's amazing, right? But that to me is that sums it all up. Was I could barely physically dig the hole, and he's just like, well, okay, you're not digging it fast enough, so I'm going to help you because now the shovel is taped to your hands.
You can never drop it,
and you can't do anything. Right? That's it. You can't. I can't even.
Awesome.
Sometimes when you're digging, you're like, well, I'll set it down and step on it and make a new dig.
And then the hairs on your arms doesn't matter. You don't need those.
Right?
Anyway.
Yeah. No. Or just the skin that's still missing. Right, it's fine, and that's it. So it's just like, well, now you have to keep digging because you're attached to the shovel.
I love it. All right, so we got some questions from the audience. Let's go.
Yes, it's your time.
Come on up here. Let's go. Come on.
GORUCK Tough Group.
GORUCK Tough Group has some questions.
This is Anna.
Hello.
This is my girlfriend.
So when I met Anna, she was sitting on the couch at the GORUCK PX, and she was sort of doing the equivalent. She wasn't actually biting her nails, but she was doing the equivalent thereof, right?
I can't bite them.
Oh, hey, I'm Alex's girlfriend, and I'm a little stressed out right now. I'm like, yeah, you should be. And then we chatted, and she's like, wow, you're way nicer than you are, and all the live feeds. I wish you wouldn't do those, right? Stuff like that. Anyway, improper introduction, but here we are. Let's hear the questions that the GRTs want to have answered.
We actually have 12.
Okay.
The first one we have from Luke MC. It is the intro is all other GORUCK events are team based, where you depend on and are depended on by your teammates. How did you mentally prepare for the individual competitive element of selection? And was it ever difficult to stay in that mental space during the event?
No team, all event.
Right.
Was it hard?
All individual person. Like I said before, no. To me, it's once it's declared, not in let's see how they respond. Like, sometimes team events, they'll do that and see how you respond when they say it's individual. Will they still stay as a team? Once it's well defined that it pays to be a winner and that's it, this is individual, there was zero like, maybe if I go slower here or, this guy, zero. It was the idea the whole time is crush everybody at everything and win. So there was zero difficulty in turning it off and saying, oh, I'm used to team events and helping everyone. It was, this is individual, pays to be a winner.
So I would say to sort of connect the dots on that, if someone gets lured into this idea that GORUCK is a team building company at GORUCK Selection, you're set up for failure.
You're absolutely yeah.
Because frankly, we are. We're a team building company.
Right. The whole idea.
We've got this one sort of thing called selection, and it's completely different.
That there's definitely people you can tell where they've gotten really strong. They've done a ton of events. They got
pretty muscles.
Or just they're a great team member. They'll put out for people. Okay, yeah. They'll crush themselves. But when it really comes down to it, it's always a collective of we can all lean on each other. Yeah. And they show up there and they're just destroyed because, people underestimate the fact that you can't talk to anybody else at all during the whole event. So you are in your own head the whole time. There is zero. Not even like oh, hey man, we got this. Like,
no, because
zero.
If you do, we're going to drop you from the whole thing.
Right.
If you talk to somebody else and we catch you doing that, then you're done.
Zero. And frankly, even just noticing, like knowing people or whatever, there's zero time for that. You're already screwing yourself over if you're taking time to like, I'll just make nice eyes at this guy over here. Like forget it. You're too distracted if you're looking out for opportunities like that. So if you need to rely on other people, that it's not the event for you. Yeah.
What's next?
Next we have from Sarah Brown Smith, so Stoney's wife. Would you recommend more distance training with lighter weight versus heavy weight for a shorter duration?
Yes,
or a
all
mixture
of it.
both?
Yes, all of it.
All of that. Definitely.
Talk about your 60-pound ruck, the tick on your back for a year.
Yeah, so there's
2 years.
There's essentially 3 main ruck training elements to me, as far as just the direct rucking. So there's
I'm all ears.
There's going to work, which is I have a 34 liter GR2 that's just for my work stuff. I have about 25 pounds of gear in it. It's work related stuff with a 30-pound plate. So it's
electronics and cords and stuff.
and just all kinds, right? A laptop, yeah,
just an
all that
IT
kind of
dork
stuff,
and,
right?
know,
Cable testers.
You like to play video games?
Crimp down video games? No, I don't play any video games, but lots of IT nerdy stuff. But
That's you, Anna.
That's me.
there's no console here, you notice that? But 30-pound plate, so the ruck's like 55 dry, and then I put in my prep meals for the day and water and stuff like that, and it pushes 60 pounds usually day to day. So it's, as you saw, the 59th Street end station is 0.9 miles away. So that's 1.8 miles. And then it's like 0.4 from the subway to my office in Manhattan. So 0.8. So then, you end up, you're at 2.6, just rucking 60 pounds every single day. Plus I'm in a 3rd floor walk up. Plus there's, the stairs from the subways and such. So it's going client to client. There's at least 3 miles a day, every day of 60-pound rucking. So there's that. Just being used to being underweight.
Plus weight.
Movement plus weight.
It's not a, hey, show up at CrossFit for an hour a day.
Right. No.
Which is great.
That, to me, the carrying weight and work stuff, that is not training. That's just a day.
It's base.
Right. If you
foundation.
That's just getting used to wearing a rucksack, and that's life.
I couldn't agree more.
Right. That's just the thing that's not training. Right. That doesn't count in my 13 times a week. That's just carrying weight. Then there are long rucks where you don't need to go too crazy. 60, 70 pounds in a ruck. Maybe a 45 and a brick stack, 75, something like that, right? Plus water, whatever.
Okay, so I would say if you're not training for selection, don't go over 50 pounds.
Fair enough.
If you are training for selection, then you need to get comfortable with heavy weight of a long distance. I used to ruck with very short distances over 100 pounds because I knew that was going to be expected of me, and I didn't want the first time I had to feel that be the first time I needed.
That's the thing, yeah.
Right.
So that's the second one is long rucks. Just go, whatever it might be, whatever you have time for. 15 miles, and you make the time if you're doing selection, you need it. But 15 miles, 20 miles, 25 miles, whatever it might be. Long rucks with okay weight, 70, 80 pounds, wet. Then there's the last component, which I probably only did this once every week or two, but that's 90-pound ruck, right? So 45 and a brick stack, so that's 75, and then probably another
every week
or once every 2 weeks.
Okay,
90 pounds
twice a month. Okay.
And then on top of that, I have an overstuffed 80-pound sandbag. So I would put that on top of the 90
everyone knows you can fit like 300 pounds in an 80-pound sandbag,
of course, right? You just stuff and stuff and stuff. And I have it's 2 40-pound fillers that are totally overstuffed, and they work their way to the ends, and it chokes you as it squeezes around your neck. It's awful, right? It's miserable.
That's so awesome.
It's miserable. That's my sandbag. So 90-pound ruck, 80-pound sandbag on top of it.
So, but how long would you go?
So that's, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
That's only 3 to 4 miles. And I only do that once every 2 weeks.
That's like, an hour and a half for 3 or 4 miles? Is that
that's probably...
my take is that the time that it takes you to do that doesn't matter.
Right.
It's more about feeling it.
Right. To me, the whole thing about those is... It's not the timing of how fast you're walking or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to screw up my knees. So it's not about that.
Yep.
And actually, that's one thing to note. That is the only training ruck that I wear boots for. Everything else I wear Converse to toughen up your feet. Wet Converse. But anyway, that's the only ruck I put boots on because I don't need to screw up all my joints with, 180, 200 pounds on me. But the whole point
200 pounds.
Well, like I said, a 90-pound ruck and then like a 90-pound, maybe not quite there, but
that's a lot. I never got quite that much. So ultimately, here's my take. Like, we can debate details.
Yeah, right.
We can talk about details. This much weight, this much distance, this much time. But my take is that I did the same thing, and I did it in some trails in Maryland and in and around Fort Bragg, where it was a ton of weight.
Yeah.
And I didn't really value speed that much.
Right.
I just needed to feel the weight. And the physical training made my mind harder. It gave me more to lose if I should ever think about quitting at some later date. I just had, like, look at how much I sacrificed.
Right.
I did all this weight, all this distance, all this time.
Stuff. The whole thing with me with that heavy ruck is it's not even about the weight or the walking. It's your shoulders and your rhomboid muscles, like in your back, your traps. That smokes you in a way that nothing else smokes you. There's no feeling, because what happens is, whether you wear a chest strap or not, it pulls back and opens up your chest in a way that you're not expecting. Or if you lean forward to try and lean into it, you can't get full breaths because there's so much weight coming down on your chest. So it is paramount that
you got to get used to it.
It's paramount that you don't stop.
Selection is a heavy place.
You go as slow as you want, but you just don't stop until you finally say, I have to put this down, right? Because this is only training, and I need to go lift weights tomorrow morning in 8 hours. So I have to set it down and rest. But that's it. Just a couple miles with just crazy heavy weight, carefully.
All right, cool. Next one. And then we probably got next one and then one more. Take your pick, your favorite.
Right, pick good ones.
We don't want the bad ones. We want the good ones.
Yeah, pick good ones.
This one's a quick one. Should be. Did you use supplements, electrolytes, water leading up to the event, and did you cut it out at any point?
This is a good one.
Yeah. So leading up to it,
supplements. What did you?
As far as like going on training rucks, because people, it always cracks me up. Like they're going out on just like a 10-mile ruck with 30 pounds, and they're like, I need to get ready, like they're doing selection. They just they like suit up with like full battle gear.
It's like the people that go run and they got the fat belts around them with 27 goose shots.
Right.
No,
like Twinkies in case their sugar goes low. You don't need any of that. So I would take I don't want to drop the brand name, but I take some form of essentially like nitric oxide before serious cardio events, because it ups the amount of red blood cells, so you can carry more oxygen through your muscles.
These days, I never used anything like that.
That's it. So I do use that, depending on what I'm doing. Other than that, before I cut out caffeine, like in the 3 months leading up, if I'm heavy lifting, I will take a pre-workout just because it's fun, right? You get like weird jittery. It's probably more of a placebo than anything, because I'm not powerlifting, so you don't need to put up that last like 10 gazillion pounds. But I do take pre-workout when I lift. But as far as like rucks or run or anything like that, no. There's no electrolyte tabs, goos, anything like that gives you that just super edge. It's like drink water and just go.
So by the way, you cut out caffeine, you cut out beer, you did all these, you sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
It sort of was a big commitment thing. My take is that phically that has no bearing.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Right. I mean, it's sort of, you stop drinking caffeine. It's more like you start sacrificing, you start creating a discipline, and it strengthens your mind.
Right. You sacrifice stuff, and then there's more money in the pot of just reasons why I'm not going to lose.
So that win in class 019 as opposed to class 018, when someone's raining down stuff on you about this or that or that or this, that you just say doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? That
I put
nothing
so
anybody
much,
says is
I
gonna
put
matter.
so much into my own bank that I'm good.
It doesn't matter, right? There's nothing you're gonna say that's gonna make a difference of
because it mattered to you in 018, and I mean I could tell at the first morning of 019, but then I could tell in the I guess the second afternoon of 019.
Yeah.
Just you can look into someone's eyes and see where they're at.
Just whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
You were good.
Yep.
So, all right. What else do we got?
promise I did not come up with this one. How did your relationship impact your training, and how did your training impact your relationship?
Relationship
That's actually
training.
That's actually probably important, yeah, because I was single before our 018, so there's a time difference. So
life, right?
Life gets in the way naturally. So, obviously having somebody who's super supportive of what you're doing is important, because there's a million times when it was, well, I'm getting out of bed at 5 a.m. and leaving, or sorry, we can't go do that thing because I need to be in bed at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, or
a lot of sacrifice, a lot
sorry,
of
we can't go out because I'm not drinking. Like, just me being the lamest person ever for 6 to 8 months leading up to it. Just nope, we can't do anything or have any fun. Sorry, I'm going to bed and I'm tired and everything hurts, right? So having somebody supportive is super critical, and you have to compartmentalize. You have to just set that stuff aside and say, hey, look, I have this goal and that's what I'm going for, and hopefully you want to be along for the ride. So it didn't have much of an impact because Anna was so supportive that it was just like, hey, we can't do this thing. Okay. Right. Hey, sorry, I'm exhausted and I fell asleep before we were supposed to finally go out that one night, and I fell asleep, and it's just, oh, that's okay. I'll go do the dishes. Like, you just rest or whatever. So it didn't impact it because there was an understanding that, hey, this is a thing that you really want to do. And we met shortly after 018. So it was like it's funny because, she does GORUCK events too and stuff, and OCR
got
endurance
patch
events.
board at your place.
Right,
got
there's
it.
a patch board back there that's hers.
I saw it.
So it was just, she made it very clear right from the beginning, like, hey, next year is your year, and like, that's gonna be a thing. So I'm not gonna, get in the way of that. So
you find someone that loves you for being you, and
for just doing
you're a winner.
Just totally dumb shit. They're right. Yeah. Hey, sorry, I'm going to ruin our entire summer and all of our plans because I have this dumb thing to do at the end. Right. So,
you had a lot you had a lot of reasons to not want to quit.
Yeah.
Because you want to do this again.
Right. No, there's no way I want to do this.
Next year, show up at my dad's house, Bellbrook, Ohio.
Yeah.
You get peek behind the curtains.
Hang out.
It's awesome. Hang out.
I'm ready. I'm going to bring a tent.
You're coming, right?
Camp. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
We're going to drink beer.
We're going to drink beer. It's the greatest spectacle in all of sports. You watch GORUCK Selection go down
in person. You told me leaving the last thing, we had a lot of beers after Mark finished or whatever. Leaving Saturday night after 018, you looked me in the face and you said, don't ever come into my parents' house again without a selection patch, because we knew that Jacksonville and then next we'd be in Ohio. Yeah. And it was like, all right, that's what I meant that.
You had it in you.
Right. So
there's other people that have it in them, and I hope that they train their asses off, and I hope that they complete it. So final bit, any bit of advice for someone who... Oh, we got one more. We got one more and then mine.
Is anybody still watching?
Okay, so one more stupid question. Love you, Lindsay Luna. Who was your favorite character that you met at Disney post-selection?
Oh man, who really? Probably, I guess Pluto, right?
Pluto, boom, got it, right? Pluto, great. Okay, Lindsay, we love you. Awesome. Okay, so next, more important question. If you've got any bit of advice for someone who wants to show up and do something awesome called GORUCK Selection, what would it be?
If you want to pass selection, it has to be the thing that you want more than anything in the months leading up to it, period. You have to make it that's your priority. That's what you're focused on, and don't let anything get in your way. That's it. You have to want it more than anything, or you're not going to pass.
Cool. How much sacrifice does it require? How much commitment?
100%. That's it. That's what you do for the months leading up to selection is train for selection, period.
All right, cool. We're going to go hang out with our lady friends, go
That's
get some
it.
sushi.
Sushi time.
Emily said, "Hey, we're going to go get sushi."
I was shocked.
We're going to go get sushi.
We're in Brooklyn. There's all the best food in the world here, and I'm with fucking Jason, who's gonna want Wheat Thins and Budweiser.
Yeah,
and
true.
he texted me and he said, "Hey, if you know a sushi place," and I said, "Oh, Emily's coming."
True story. True story.
Now we're gonna go get
There's always
all
a
you can
better
eat sushi.
There's always a better half.